Hey there, Zarita family. Welcome to our dad chat for Father's Day. We've got a great selection of fathers here to talk to us about what it's like to run this business and do it at the same time as running a family, being a father, being a husband. So let's just jump right into it. Everyone on the call, let's jump right to Jay first. Jay, if you can tell us a little bit about yourself.
What's my name? What'd you say?
What's his name?
Yeah, Jay Shafer.
His name.
I'm with Zarita and been happily married for 33 plus years. Have two beautiful girls, Waverly Shafer, 24, and Summer Shafer, 21, just graduated. It's a real honor to be their father, and it's a humbling experience, but it's all very good. And I took all my lessons from fatherhood from Mark, because he's that much older than I am and much more wiser, and a lot more kids. Like you can count them all.
Well, it's a great segue. So, Mark, tell us about yourself and your family.
Well, I'm only older in the sense of having kids a lot longer than Jay has. So, obviously, I have 7 kids, and I have 8. I just had my 8th grandchild, and I think this business, obviously, my kids grew up in the field. They learned so much from being around us while we were setting goals, while we were talking to other people about setting goals. And I've always believed in a family business because there's a lot of sacrifices you have to make. And, children don't understand sacrifices unless you kind of attach it to the rewards. So we've always dreamed of having a family business together. And I think one of the tips that I would give is that, we would do a lot of meetings in our home, and, we did this kind of in business and in ministry, but we had a rule, and that was that we never asked our children to leave the room while we were doing business or ministry. And the reason for that is that we never wanted them to grow up resenting the business. So we just made them a part of it. And it was interesting because, thank God, I don't know what would have happened. They were always so intrigued with being around. They would choose, even as they got a little older, they would come sit down with the group instead of going off to play and do their own thing. But they were really always good. I have to say this, all my kids were good, and, but they'd be quiet. But we just always thought it was important for them to be around the business. And, I think what this business teaches people more than anything else, and what it's taught my kids, is, that everybody's the same. And I think they've lived in what I call an environment where we were kind of underdogs, if you will, without having, Trace and I, without having a college education, et cetera. And we always really talk to the underdog, the person that may be looking for the opportunity just like us. And they really learn how to appreciate people. I've, made them, understand, who they were, meet the people that do our yard, our trash, the people that do our trash. So we really, these are all values that we learn in the direct sales industry. So I just don't think there's a better industry to raise your children in when it comes to setting goals and dealing with people than what we have here in direct sales, and especially the culture in Zarita. And it all starts at the top with Jay and then the leaders and the ambassadors as well. So having kids is great. Being a dad is probably next to being a husband is the single most privileged thing that we ever do. I'm excited. I have obviously Shauna. Many of you know Shauna. She's has the same heart that we have and a passion for the business because she's lived it. She's had a life-changing experience in this industry because of growing up in it. And you can tell that when you work with it.
Well said. Well said. Thank you, Mark. So let's, Charlie, let's go over to you. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your family, and just give us a quick background.
Okay. Hi, my name's Charlie. I've actually been in the business probably for about 6 or 7 years. My wife's been in about 10. It's just been an amazing opportunity for me to actually grow as a person of faith in God. It's just been amazing. My daughter, she's 12, I'll say 12 and a half. She's our world. And, this company and this opportunity just opened up a lot of doors for us as a family, just spending time with each other. That's the most important part, because when I was younger, I didn't have that time with my family. So it's helped us a lot. We grow as a family. So. That's awesome.
That's awesome. Andre, let's go to you. So tell us a little about yourself and your family.
So myself, I'm VP of Technology and Business Intelligence for Zervita. It's a mouthful, but I'm married. I've got 2 boys. One's going to be 3 this month, and one is 9 months this month. And I'll tell you, I think it's been a crazy time for everybody. The routines between, what you get into coming into the office each day and what that looked like for the kids and for myself, and then versus, being at home with them and what that looks like, for the kids and for myself. And I guess the one thing that and this was something actually I took from Mark, was, be very deliberate with my time. So for example, like today is a crazy day. You go from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting, and I do my best to be deliberate, like just like I would in the business world. You know what I mean? If it's, I put my phone off to the side. If I'm meeting with someone, that's who I'm meeting with. When it comes to the kids, like when I'm sitting at the dinner table, the phone goes off the table. Like I'm there with the family. If, after they do dinner, like I'll take Georgie outside and I'll play baseball with them for a little bit, but like I'm there with Georgie. I'm present in that moment. And at least one of the things for me and our family that's helped a lot, just because, I can tell, Georgie really appreciates the time. And let's face it, I mean, I think, life can be crazy. I mean, there's always a time, something you're supposed to be spending your time on, whether it's business, professional, personal, social, whatever it is. But just being very focused on that time that I spend with them, seems to work for everybody. So,
yeah, it's so true. That's powerful. That's a good word. Thank you, Andre. So, Jamie, let's go to you. Tell us a little about yourself and your family.
What an awesome group of men here. So Jamie, Yount, I've been married to my best friend for 20 years, going on 29 years. We do Zervita full time. We've been full time in this industry since 2011. And, really for me, just, my whole passion, is just being a father. It's born out of a deficit in my life. And so being able to be part of something like this is humbling. And, it's everything I always, strive for is just to be better for my family. I have 2 boys, James, who's 15, and Charlie, who's 6. He's soon to be 7. And so, really, for me, I just feel, I'm called to raise two men that are going to be able to, lead a family and just try to continue to set the bar for them higher. And just, if they got to step on me to get there to, be a better man, a better husband, better father than myself, then, that's the end goal. And everything after that is kind of academic in my life, but just, being, everything really truly that I wanted and I didn't have. And so that's really just me in a nutshell. Man, I love being a husband and a father. And so being a part of something like this is everything to me. I'm just humbled and grateful to be here.
Thanks, Jamie. That's good. That's a good word. That's so true. I'm I'm glad Zervita can be that for you. So, Brendan, tell us about yourself and your family.
Hey everybody, my name is Brandon LaRue. I live in a small town in La Crescent, Minnesota, actually. And I do Zervita part-time. I've been married to my beautiful wife, Jenny, for almost 10 years in September. Wow. And I got 3 lovely children. Brooks, who is 7, he's my son. And then I have 2 daughters, Livy, who's almost 5. And my youngest daughter, Brady's almost 2. And so like all these other men here, I'm humbled to be a part of this, but also just I love being a dad, and I love being a husband. And I'm also, as a man, I feel a need to provide and to work, and where this has fit so well with just kind of how I'm wired is I love to coach. I got like 100 sons and daughters that I coach. They're athletes, but I treat them very much the same, discipline them, love them. And so I got a lot of different plates that I'm spinning in my life, but the one constant and one thing that I've always chipped away at is a direct sales opportunity and Zervita. We just got to the executive consultant rank here by just grinding, chipping away in our spare time. And just learned to bring this with me wherever I go, because everywhere I go, I see people that need what we have. Everywhere I go, I see people that need better health, need to be more vibrant so they can be better dads. I see moms who need to be vibrant and energetic so they can be better moms. And I see families that need something that they can pour into. They need a culture, a supportive, positive, life-giving culture that they can be a part of like this. So it just, and when they see positivity, when they see light coming from me, it just, you can draw people into something like this and really be a blessing in a lot of ways. And a lot of times it's just the culture that you get to be a part of. And then if there, then obviously great products come along with that. And if there's an income opportunity, great, but people be blessed nonetheless. So I just love being a part of a culture like this where I get to choose who I get to surround myself with and to just get sharpened. So I'm just pumped to be a part of this.
Amen. That's awesome. I like how you look at the people you train as sons and daughters. You give them that kind of relationship. That's really cool. Well, let me tell everyone a little bit about myself. I'm the video production manager here at Zervita. I've got 1 kid. Been married to my wife for almost 10 years in December. Our kid's 18 months now. She is sweet. She's saying words, running all over the place. And, one of my favorite things to do is just sit down with her, and she loves reading books. Even though she can't read them yet, she'll just sit there and stare at them. And so I just kind of read it to her. And that's one of my favorite things to do at night and before she goes to bed. So it's just a joy to be a dad. I love every moment of it. So let's move on to talking a little bit about how we juggle these positions that we're in while also being fathers. So Jay, tell us a little bit about, you're heading up you're the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. how do you juggle that while also being a father at the same time?
Well, that's a great question. I think I ask myself that every day. Particularly when you look at your children and you look at them at one age and all of a sudden you blink and they're another age. So you got to have priorities. You have to say to yourself, okay, what's the most important thing for my children's life? Is it to have their attention to their father, or is it to grow a company? And people on this call, Mark in particular, will tell you that it can really just take everything you have, and the cell phone's going off. But, it comes back to what God calls you to do, and he calls you to be a father. And so you have to really ask yourself, okay, am I really doing what God called me to do? And where's the legacy really going to be? It's going to be what I'm putting into my children. So it's a constant question process. It's not, I would say I probably flunk out probably 5 days out of 7, when the weekend comes and I tend to pay a little more attention. But I think God in his goodness and his grace to us allows us those times to say, okay, stop. This is important to pay attention to what your children are saying. And of course, my girls are older now, so they don't really need, as much dad time. And that's a bit of an adjustment. You're the center of their world, and next thing you know, somebody else is there. but they still need that attention. And so I've tried, again, I can't say that I've perfected this, really to lay the cell phone down. I think that's what our connection to everything these days. And you just kind of got to lay it down. But again, it goes back to what's your why, who you're living for, and really kind of what's the end result of your children, because they're going to move out. They're going to move on. They're going to have, I have 2 girls, so they're going to support another man in their life. And so what am I teaching them for the long haul? So that's kind of, you got to keep that in the forefront of your mind. So.
Yeah, so true. That's awesome. So Mark, in a similar way, how do you balance time with 7 kids plus grandkids? I mean, how do you do it?
I don't. I'll be honest with you. I probably actually learned a lot from Jay in that process. Just worked with him over the years. He was pretty good about when to shut it off, and probably learned a lot from Tracy. Never seen any. I'm not a very good multitasker. So, I mean, when I'm focused, and she'll have to say hello. She used to have to do that to me a lot. They're like, they're talking to you, and I'm like, I'm already in some meeting, halfway across the country, So, but it's by God's grace, and I think the one thing that of balance is, it's okay to be wrong. And when you handle things wrong, or when you're absent, what I've been able to do is I just go to my kids and say, listen, first off, I want to apologize. I probably wasn't giving you the attention when you were talking to me. Can we sit down and can we start all over? I want to know more about it, because, I'm not a good person when it comes to, if I'm focused on somebody just to come, talk to me, my mind's still there. But so to go back and really, I think you teach your kids a lot of grace of just admitting when you blow it, and you're going to blow it many times, and, but enjoy the season that you're in. We have one left, starting in another month, that's still in school. And there's a big difference between, when they're in school and then when they're out of school, as far as high school goes. So we're going to enjoy the time that we're in right now, and and then also enjoy the grandkids. Our kids kind of grew up. Tracy and I, we kind of raised our kids and the grandkids at the same time, because they were, I had kids that were the same age as the grandkids, so it made it a little bit crazy around our house. But we made it work. We just, God's grace goes a long ways.
So true, so true. Charlie, tell us a little bit about how you juggle this business and being a father. I know you actually teach your daughter basketball lessons. Is that true?
Yes, I do. Really haven't had to juggle a whole lot because she's at home every time I get home. It's not bad at all. I actually enjoyed it. We don't, everywhere we go, we share, we have her with us, and we share the opportunity. We share the product whenever we have a chance. I mean, that we know that's how our business will grow. She actually wants her own business. She's been wanting her own business for the last 6 years because she's seen us do it, and she see how easy it is. All you gotta do is put your heart into it. And, she eventually will have her own business, but, she also helps us as well, So it's just amazing just to, see her react the way she does to different things. And I'm glad she's a part of it already. So.
That's awesome. Bring him along. That's awesome. Yep. Let's, Jamie, tell us a little bit about how this business helps you and how you balance being a father and also being a full-time consultant at the same time.
So people have always asked about balance. And so I think balance is, man, I think, whether you're full-time or part-time, I mean, the only way to really find balance in anything is life is to kind of be walking on the edge of out of balance. And so, I think, somebody's already mentioned it, a couple of times. It's just time and being intentional. So, I try to do things. We do this full time. And so James and I work out together. It's something that we do together. Charlie and I mean, he just is play full time. That's his thing. He's going to grow up and just play. I don't know why he's going to play, but that's his thing. But I think when you're like, for me, and in our life, and no matter who you are, I think it's just, you got to set some kind of boundaries and some kind of guardrails in your life. There's like, I remember before we started to homeschool James, there was just sacred time when I'd pick him up from school that, I was never on the phone. That's his time to sit and to, for me to listen to how his day was. If I go and I'm coming home from a meeting, or really even anytime I go from the house and come home, when I walk in the door, I'm never on my phone, and I've only learned that from, from being, making that mistake and just kind of realizing, wow, this isn't right. And then I have this, I have an incredible helpmate in my wife that really is always there to kind of say, hey, you know what, you're getting on the wrong side of balance. Like a lot of people have mentioned already, I'm a worker. So I just kind of lock down and focus, and, there's one speed and it's go. And that's great. But I think just no matter how we do this, it's just intentional. And so when with James, whether we're working out or if I'm, playing with Charlie, a game on the floor, the last thing I want him to do, or either one of them is the phone rings. And then it's kind of like this, like, pick up that phone and what's more important. And, at the end of the day, they're the most important, aside from my wife and, my salvation, they're the most important people in my life. And so, sometimes those things wait. And so when I'm with them, when you're, let your yes be your yes. So when you're present, be present. Because if I'm present playing and I'm also trying to kind of text and do the business, like I really don't give the business my best. And I certainly don't give, my kids the best. And so in the long run, I fail at both, and I just kind of give a half-hearted effort. So I try this, and not that I have it all figured out. So, it's a process. And so it's kind of like a teeter-totter. You get a little out of balance and then get a little too far this way, and you're always on that. But I think at the end of the day, we have some things like we try to eat, all of our meals around the kitchen table. When we were, when I was working, we still tried to eat, dinner. Obviously, you can't eat lunch, but my wife would bring the boy, James, a lot of times to work, and I would, eat lunch with him. We try to do that together. That's sacred. That's important to us, and that's just us. So I'm not saying, hey, this is something that works for us. And so we have certain things that we protect. The phones are down, and there's just times. But then, one thing that I've always thought about this, in doing this business, and it's certainly not a shot at anybody or anything like that, is, I want my boys to look at what we do in helping and serving and ministering to other people, and, to see it and to want to do what we do. Just, being around Shauna and having that kind of, it's such an impact on James, to hear her sharing how this industry, how she's grown up in this industry, and how Mark has done this, I want to I believe I'm on that path. But I think if they say, gosh, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do what you're doing, then I believe you got to step back and say, hey, maybe there's just something that I got to change about my approach at how I'm doing this, because it should be a positive thing. That it is a family thing. We bring the family in, and like everybody's already mentioned, nothing's more important than you can hide failure at home with busyness at work. So we could be whatever, I don't even know what Brad Murray is. We could be all that quadruple crown ambassador or whatever, and I can still be a failure as a husband and a father. And at the end of the day, and I'll be happy. And so that's not the end goal. The end goal is to obviously build a business, impact people, but, most importantly, build up, my boys and certainly build up my wife, so that at some point, they want to become consultants and they want to do what we do, and they see the impact that we have, and they want to be a part of that too. So I don't know if that's the right answer, but that's just
no, that's great.
That doesn't exist.
It is hard. I mean, you're constantly on that edge, like you said, but boundaries are so important. That's vital. So Brandon, tell us a little bit about, I mean, between you and your training and helping others, I mean, and your own family too, like how do you juggle all of that?
Oh boy. Jamie kind of hit the nail on the head, I think. But I just try to prioritize, prioritize my life with the things that matter to me most: faith, family, my own personal fitness, so I can be my best elsewhere. And then business follows. And with that time that I allocate in that level of priority, I just try to be disciplined. Discipline is kind of one of my mantras. And in doing so, when I allocate time, when I get up early, when I go to bed on time, I find myself with the energy to do these things. I find myself the energy to hop on, on this awesome dad chat I was invited to be a part of. I find the time to go the extra mile to go share this with somebody when I do those things in those order. I've been out of order, I've had my priorities the other way around, and kind of like Jamie was saying, when it kind of falls out of whack, man, nothing's really thriving. And so I've just learned by mistakes, failing forward, and to be disciplined in these areas and my priorities. And then with the time that I do allocate towards this business, whether it's a couple hours a week or 5 hours a week, that time accumulates over the course of a year. And if I'm all in during those time frames and I can be successful in those chunks add up over the course of a year, over the course of 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. This is a long-term game. And that's just my mindset with it. Just like fitness, just like health, just like being a husband, just like being a father. It's a long-term game. It's not something you win in a day, in a month, in a year. You just got to chip away. And that begins to compound. So, those are things that I've learned by failing a lot.
Yeah. And we gotta be okay. We gotta be okay with failing. Cause I mean, that's the easiest way. That's a powerful way for us to learn, never be afraid to fail. But I love that they'll prioritize discipline and focus on those times. Like you said, Jamie, just in those times you gotta be all in. So Andre, tell us a little bit about, what your life is like, in being a father and being in the position you're in and how it all works together.
How it all works together is always unique, but I guess, there's a couple things I try to bear in mind. One is I do, you hear kind of like a lot of common themes as we all talk. Brandon was talking about, discipline. I do my best to be as disciplined as possible with a routine that the kids can look forward to. Like, talked about after dinner, we do the whole baseball thing. And then right before bed, I do it with both the boys. We do Spanish, and then we do Bible, and then we do bedtime, and then we do a story, then we do bedtime. But they look forward to those things. They know that they're coming, and they know Daddy's going to be there. Now, granted, we all do, what's that? Oh, anyhow, I mean, we all deal with variables, right? Like there's going to be times where sometimes that's not possible. Maybe you're late doing something else, but regardless, I do my best to be as disciplined with that. And it's something that they look forward to. And in the case that for any reason I do miss it, I do my best not to beat myself up too much, understanding, hey, there's still tomorrow. There's still, so if I do fall off the wagon with this whole discipline routine thing, I know the next day I pick it back up again and just, again, be disciplined enough, I guess, to do that. The other thing I'll say is that, in our business, this is a people business. I mean, you'll find that most people who work in this sphere do it because they love people. And I've done my best to kind of leverage that with my kids because there's crossover. If I love people, I hope my boys love people. But, when we have folks, whether it's over from the field or from the office, over at the house, I didn't even think about this. Mark talked about, how he never asked his kids to leave the room, when they were doing a presentation or what have you. We do our best to expose, Bo and George to as many, folks as possible. If we have, again, folks over from the office over at the house or folks from the field over at the house, they're always around. They always see, Uncle so-and-so. And I'll tell you, taking advantage of that crossover, the opportunity, that social component. I mean, with the kids, they love people, because they're always around it. And I guess that's not something I necessarily really thought of, but it has worked out well. I think, even going to like a football game with Mark, it's kind of, you don't see the kids freaking out when, there's a whole bunch of kids around. I mean, it's leveraging that crossover, I guess, has been good. So.
Yeah, social interaction is important. I mean, that's important to growth for any child. So, one of the things I'll speak for myself, just that I've learned is slowing down. I mean, all of you kind of hit on this in some degree when it comes to focus, when it comes to priorities. I'm a very task-driven kind of person. I like lists and checking them off and that kind of thing. But I've learned that sometimes it's better just to slow down when my daughter's wanting my attention, or my wife needs me for something. I can be so focused in on one thing, but just taking the time to slow down and be with them and be intentional with them just makes the world difference, and it makes life fuller. And I know it benefits them even more than me. So wrapping it up here, what are some final tips, guys, that you would give? And we'll start with you, Jay. Like, what are some final tips you would give to someone in a similar position in this industry, fathers who are trying to juggle, being a father, being a husband, but also trying to be in this industry? What are some final tips you would give to people in the same situation?
Well, I think a couple of people have hit on it, is that involve your family. All right. Involve your family, what your goals are. Tell them what your goals are. I love Mark's, look, I messed up. I think when they see that vulnerability, it adds strength and stability to them as well. And when you look like on this call right now, there's a lot of wisdom on this call. Regardless how old you are, how many kids you have, I ask, talk to others, what they're doing, how they're doing it, because there's just so much wisdom in how other people are doing it. You think you have the right way, and you kind of become closed in. And then, ask God your Father how you're supposed to raise your kids. I mean, because you can't be, I can't be like Jamie. I can't be like Andre or Mark. I'm going to be Jay, and I'm different than them. And that's okay, because we have a lot of God-made unique individuals everywhere. But again, I think you just ask ask for help and be humble about it and take it all in.
That's great. Mark, any final tips?
I would say have fun. Okay. I think that when we get around and we talk, obviously, I've got older kids, and then I've got younger kids. Okay. But when we all get together, the things that we always talk about are the things that are funny, the things that made everybody laugh. So I think that if you went to each and every one of my children and probably my grandkids, and they were going to talk about me, they'd say, well, Papa's always having fun. Okay. And in fact, my son, we was on the golf course one day, and Blake spent more time out at the golf course than I did. So I was known as Blake's dad, okay? And I like to cut up and have a good time. Sometimes I act a little, he says I'm the most immature 60-year-old man he has ever met in his life. And he goes, Dad, I know these people. Please straighten up. Get your act together. He goes, you got to act like you're mature. So, but on this, we just took a golf trip this last weekend. And, we had a blast. And that's one of the things that he talks about is, about having fun. So have fun with your kids. It's okay to laugh at yourself. I get around Jay's family, and they tell stories of Jay, and they're always laughing about kind of the goofy stuff that he does, okay, or how he forgets something. I'm known for forgetting stuff. And so you got to be able to laugh when you mess up, laugh with them about the stuff that you do, and teach them how to laugh at themselves as well. So, yeah, at the end, that's what you're going to remember when you get, when our final days are here, they're going to remember how you led them in a relationship, with your Heavenly Father, and they're going to remember the fun times that you had, and that's going to be the best memories.
Yeah, so true, so true. Charlie, tell us about any final tips you might have.
Just like Jay already said, this opportunity can be built with your family. I mean, we've done it, and we're going to continue to do so. It's just had a huge impact on my life. Just knowing where I come from, just the opportunity to help others. That's the most positive part about it. It is fun. It's fun. We have the most fun when we go on trips to convention and things like that. It just brings us much closer, and we just kind of learn more stuff about each other as a family.
That's good. Thank you so much. Brandon, tell us some final tips you might have for any fathers out there.
I would say associations are powerful. And so as a man, as a father, in today's world, it's a challenge to find a good group of men that are mission minded and are growing and want to do something great, whatever that means. And if you're not surrounding yourself with people like that, it's going to be really hard to do something that you're dreaming of doing. So choose who you surround yourself with. One of my favorite quotes is, everybody wants to be great until it's time to do what greatness requires. So if you want to do great things, surround yourself with like as a man, I want to surround myself with great men that challenge me to become better, that I can look up to, that can sharpen me when I fall off course. So, I mean, as a man, I think that's probably one of the best tips that I can give is just choose who you surround yourself with, because they will have a profound impact on your life.
So true. As iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. That's so important. Andre, any final tips?
Yeah, I think as guys, I think things just have to make sense to us, right? So like there's a couple quotes that I keep in mind to make sure that I'm focusing on the most important thing, right? And one of those quotes actually my wife said to me, and it's whenever I'm like, I get so focused on work or something that really, shouldn't be my priority at that point. My wife said this to me, and it almost brings tears to my eyes now. It's just, it's like, they're never going to be this age again. They're never going to be this age again. And I think about that to myself, like every day I go home, they're never going to be the age that they are right then that I am with them right there. So it's like, if I miss that opportunity, just don't want to miss that opportunity. And the other thing is, this came from a book that Jay had recommended to me called Tender Warrior. And I remember, Brandon, you had posted something online, and like I took the quote from that book because this is just something that resonates with me. It's that our children, for most of us, our children are our only message to a world we will never see. And that responsibility to raise, in my case, I've got 2 boys, to raise men that will be representative of the values that, I hope to instill in them and the impact that they can have on the world. That's such a tremendous responsibility. So if ever I get off target or it's pretty easy to bring myself back in and focus on the most important thing. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Andre. Jamie, we'll wrap it up with you. Any final tips you've got?
Yeah. So I think, everybody's already given, wonderful advice. And so hit on everything. I think, for me, the one thing, so speaking to maybe the men that might be watching this, I think is just embrace this industry. Unfortunately, a women's call, we would probably have twice as many people on, and that's nothing other than the truth, but we're called to lead. And so it's not a shot at the women or anything like that, but to embrace this industry and embrace, what this has to offer. I've always wanted to be a father. I played professional basketball, walked away after a championship, scoring 32 points and 14 boards and 8 assists. And all I wanted to be was be a dad. And 4 years later, I found myself, I was in a factory with, a son who was 5 and sitting across the dinner table and just totally missing time. Had all the intentions in the world of being a father. And he sat at the dinner table like I wasn't there. And he said, "Mommy, you're my hero." And it changed everything for me. And the next day we were introduced to this industry, and we came, and I just wanted time with my son. I just wanted time with my oldest. I wanted to be a father that I never had. And this industry has given me that. But along the way, I've learned to be a good father means I have to be a good husband first. And I've I have to give grace to my father because he didn't search out, other men. But I can say that the most influential men in my life, have come through this industry, and on the screen right now, and in our downline, in our organization, because you're attaching yourself and you're surrounding yourself with men that are, like Brandon said, mission driven, that want to be better and want to be more and have a desire to grow. Because one thing I know about men is we tend to isolate ourselves. We don't like to be challenged. We don't like to be called to the mat. We like to rise to a challenge. We're wired that way, but it's hard to be challenged. So when you put yourself in an environment like this, where there are some men that are leading, it's not always easy to say, "Hey, I need help, and I need to maybe step out of my comfort zone, and I need to do something different and embrace this industry and something like this that's going to challenge me and put me on a path of growth." And I've always said, everything I am today is because God's grace on a sinner like me, and because of a wife that's prayed for me through everything. But the last thing is the men in my life, and so I believe you're not going to find better men that are mission driven than something like this. And so, as a kind of something from me, I think everybody says, have fun, be yourself, and all of those things. But man, just embrace this for what it can be. Open your heart. God made. Somebody mentioned they don't multitask. Like, that's how God made us. We're not multitaskers. We're also kind of dumb and prideful. And I don't say that any other than that's how God made us. So it's not really my fault. It's just but you gotta lower the pride and lower those walls and say, "Hey, you know what? This is some place where I can grow and grow into the man that I was called to be." And I'm so grateful for this industry, coming into our life in 2009, and we've been full-time since 2011, and God's brought us into, men's groups and things like that. And it is certainly not because, Jamie is so super equipped. It's just because of the men, and we've landed in this culture here at Zervita that's just, man, it's just home. Like everything that these men that are leading the way in this company are doing, Mark and Jay, and it's just, this is just like, man, if you can't get around that fire and get around that as a man, holy smokes, like just, embrace this and stay around the fire, because inevitably you're going to be better if you just stick around and you attach yourself to these kind of men. So, that's just, my advice would be just embrace this thing and, let God take you wherever he wants to take you. Because I remember I said, there's one thing that Jamie will never do. I'm not going to do these parties. So, and I'm never going to talk in front of people. And so also be careful what you say, because God has a sense of humor. And I've done both of those things a lot. Not that I enjoy them, but I'm called to do them. So I just love y'all. That's my advice or my tip.
Thank you, Jamie. Wow. A lot of good, I'll second what Jay was saying. We're surrounded by a lot of wisdom here. And I just appreciate all of you guys sharing your hearts, sharing your wisdom. And hopefully to you, Zervita family, this will be helpful information. And just want to say happy Father's Day to all those fathers out there. And thank you. And we'll see you around. God bless.